everybody, I hope that you are well. If you know me or have been following my channel for a while, you will know that for the whole of last year, 2016, I was living and working in Queenstown in New Zealand. I first visited Queenstown actually 4 years ago when I did the Kiwi experience for the first time, and when I got to Queenstown I just absolutely fell in love with it, and I knew that if I ever did New Zealand on a working holiday visa that would be where I wanted to go. So it was a pretty easy decision for me from the start that I definitely knew I wanted to work in Queenstown. So this video is aimed at backpackers who know they want to or are thinking about settling down in Queenstown for a season or two. Before I start giving my tips and tricks on living and working there, I just want to give you a quick brief introduction to Queenstown for those of you who know nothing about it. Queenstown is in the bottom half of the South Island of New Zealand. It's surrounded by mountains and is a lakeside town to Lake Wakatipu, which is the third largest lake in the whole of New Zealand. Queenstown is famous for being the adrenaline capital of the world. It's home to the world's first commercial bungee jump by AJ Hackett at the Kawerau Bridge. It's home to the famous shot over jet boat. It's famed for its dramatic landscapes like the Remarkables and just down the road Glenorchy, which are both big Lord of the Rings filming locations. But before all of the adventure, Queenstown was valued for its gold. The gold rush peaked back in 1863, but today Queenstown is a buzzing resort town. It's popular all year round and you can even go skiing and snowboarding in the winter, which is awesome. And the town never sleeps as the dining and nightlife are just as popular as all the adventure activities. Queenstown's very popular with backpackers, as I well know, but it's also very popular with families, couples on honeymoons, luxury holidays. There's also a lot of Chinese tourists in town. What's interesting is that it's actually very rare to find a true local who was born and raised in Queenstown. The majority of locals there are in fact expats. And that is Queenstown in a very small nutshell. Living and working there was actually a lot tougher than I thought, and I came across a lot more challenges than I was expecting, but in this video I'm going to give you a lot of my tips and tricks, things that I've learned, and I really hope that it helps. My first tip: get a car as soon as you can. Not only because it expands the number of places that you can live outrageously, it will just make your life easier in so many more ways. Driving to the biggest and cheapest supermarket, Countdown, which is in Frankton, that's a 10-minute drive away from Queenstown. Or driving to Frankton for any other reason because you can hardly ever get what you actually need in Queenstown. Driving to the ski fields, going on little trips to Wanaka, Glenorchy, Arrowtown just to get away for the day. The buses in Queenstown are expensive. It will cost you about $12 for a return just to Frankton. Some Queenstowners would argue that you don't actually need a car because you always know someone else who has one, but personally I just think it's so much better to have your own so that you can go wherever you want, whenever you want, having that freedom. And if you keep it in good condition, you get most of your money back anyway, and so it's definitely worth your while. I got my car on the Facebook group Queenstown Trading. There's also cars for sale in Queenstown. As a rough guide, you can expect to pay around 2,000 New Zealand dollars for a 95 Subaru Legacy in pretty decent condition. And then there's finding a place to live in Queenstown, some place to call home. As a backpacker, you will almost definitely be starting out in a hostel, and honestly I actually recommend starting out in a hostel because it is such a good way to meet so many people as soon as you get to town, and immediately you are not on this journey alone. If you can, try to book your hostel at least a couple of weeks in advance. This is because even in shoulder season, even though there are plenty of hostels to choose from, a lot of the time they are completely fully booked. And it's not out of the ordinary you hearing regular backpackers getting caught in very sticky situations because of this. I heard of backpackers who had to pay hundreds of dollars a night just for a hotel room for the night because it was the only thing they could find. When you're searching for a job in Queenstown, if you can bag yourself a work for accommodation job in one of the hostels, it will save yourself so much money. And most hostels do offer this work. As many of you know, I worked at Nomad. We had to do 6 3-hour shifts every week, so 18 hours. The shifts were pretty flexible, which was great, but the jobs were pretty awful and the management was just disgustingly strict, which was just not fun at all when realistically you should be having fun. All it is work for accommodation. A tip for getting a work for accommodation job is to actually stay in the hostel that you want to work in and try and make friends with as many employees as possible. But as soon as you found yourself at least just a part-time regular job, you need to get yourself on the house hunt and you need to search hard. House hunting in Queenstown is not a walk in the park. It's not even a hike up Ben Lomond. It's a freaking root burn trek with all the burn and no root. Locals tend to live in the following areas. So there's the close Queenstown area, which is pretty much anywhere up to a 15-minute walk away. There's Fernhill, which is about a 45-minute walk but just a 5-minute drive. Down Frankton Road up to Goldfield Heights will take you about 45 minutes to walk or a 5-minute drive. And anywhere further than that, you're 100% going to want to get a car because it will just make your life so much easier in so many ways. People live out to Moke Lake, they live out in Arthur's Point, they live out to Frankton, or maybe even Jack's Point. Some people even live out in Arrowtown and do the commute there because realistically it's a half-hour commute, and I would definitely do that back at home. But you do need a car. A great place to start your search for a place to live is the Facebook group For Rent in Queenstown. People who have houses or a spare room to rent will post here for a single person or a couple to fill it. Only problem is it's a little bit like feeding time at the zoo when someone posts something that's decent, within walking distance, and actually affordable. And prices have gone up ridiculously on there, even since I arrived in town last year. Because realistically, you should be able to get your own room within walking distance for around 170 New Zealand dollars per week. But at the moment, you'd be lucky to get your own room in Arthur's Point for under $200. People post long-term and short-term rents on there, so make sure you do pay attention to exactly what they are offering so you don't get caught out. And I feel like this kind of goes without saying, but you should really always arrange to view the house and meet at least some of the housemates before agreeing to move in. And if there is a group of you wanting to get a house together, you can try Queenstown Accommodation Centre, Real Estate, or Trade Me and try your luck there as well. And then there's finding a job. In my opinion, an easier task than finding somewhere to stay, but that's open to debate. If you are after a typical 9-to-5 job, then you have come to the wrong place. The most common type of work to find in Queenstown, being a resort town, is shift work. There are still many jobs to choose from. Most popular jobs attainable to backpackers tend to be bartenders, waiters, housekeepers, hotel guest services, reservations, working for an activity company, frontline sales, activity instructor, travel sales, retail sales, or perhaps even construction. Because many people will stay for a season and then leave, the turnover of jobs is very high all year round. So whenever you arrive in Queenstown, there will always be job vacancies to apply for. The best place to search for these vacancies is in Lakes Weekly, a free weekly magazine that you can find online or in newsagents, and if you turn to the back pages, that's where all the job vacancies are. There's also Seek, which is an online agent, and there's also AdStaff, which is a recruitment agency right in the middle of Queenstown, which you can sign up for. Usually on these listings that these agents provide, they give you an email address to send your CV to. Definitely do that, but also go and give your CV to the manager of that establishment in person. This can be very daunting, but trust me, for them, it makes you about 10 times more memorable. And if you are the right person for the job, they're gonna know it right away because they've just met you. You are essentially giving yourself an interview as opposed to having to wait for them to judge your CV first. Make sense? It works. At least that worked for me several times in Queenstown. Because the competition is high for getting any job in Queenstown, it means that you are very replaceable. Which basically means if you are slacking, there are few managers in town who will have a hard time letting you go. So a tip from me is to really try and find a job that you do actually enjoy so that you do work hard at it and you don't get fired. And another tip, I personally think that it's in everyone's best interest to just at least try bagging a job as some sort of agent. So a travel agent, activity reservations, hotel concierge, even a lot of plain reception jobs. This is because a lot of these jobs allow you to go on for mills, which is essentially where you get to experience an activity or a restaurant in Queenstown for free, because you are going to be selling it on to other paying customers. So it's in the activity provider or the restaurant's best interests to have you experience what they have to offer so that you can pass on the recommendation. I got to go on several helicopter rides, I got to go white water rafting, hang gliding, jet boating, to name just a few things, and they were all completely free. I must have got thousands of dollars worth of freebies and I would have never been able to afford to do all of those awesome activities had I not had that job, which would have been a massive shame considering I was in the adventure capital of the world. On another note, if you are the type of person to give in to even the tiniest amount of peer pressure, be prepared to drink a lot. It's a party every night in Queenstown. Queenstown is a very small town, but it's very full on. Be prepared to have the time of your life and definitely just take each day as it comes. I'm going to be making another video on Queenstown and everything there is actually to do in Queenstown because oh boy do I have a lot to tell you. But I did think it would be a little bit much to include all of that into this one video. I hope that you enjoyed this video though. I really do hope it has helped if you are planning on moving to Queenstown or just thinking about it. Leave a comment down below if you have any specific questions and I will try to answer them as best I can, or maybe someone else out there has lived in Queenstown and can answer it for you. Let's help each other out. Be sure to be following me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook for more content from me and to keep up with what I'm doing at the moment. And please subscribe to my channel for new videos every Wednesday-ish and Sunday evenings. I'm not too sure what my next video is going to be yet, but whatever it is, I will see you then. Bye!